solstice, even though we don't actually get to the solstice until next Tuesday. But for those of you who are unfamiliar with the Miracles Course, I created it about 16 years ago. I've been leading it that long. It's a year-long course that essentially every week is a little bit of a different slant of personal and spiritual growth with some kind of exercises every week, all toward the aim of leading a miraculous life. And every session is complete in and of itself, so you can just drop in from time to time and get a complete experience. And that said, each week does build upon the last. So to get the most value, I always recommend coming continuously, because then you'll really see the progression. It's a year-long course, and it doesn't have a beginning or an ending, much like the seasons, where, Bill is flagging me from the other room. Sorry. He wanted me to mention that I actually am the author of a couple of books about miracles. The first one is called Holding a Butterfly, an Experiment in Miracle Making. The second one is The Breakthrough Point, a Spiritual Activist Guide for Thriving in a Modern World. And both of them are very experiential, where as soon as you start reading the book, all readers get drawn into a virtual joined mind and heart of amplified consciousness to take you into miracle experiences. The second one I particularly recommend for understanding the times we're in. They're very much set in the context of the crazy times of, the last 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, and explains a lot of why things are so crazy. It kind of gives a little more of a positive slant on why the world is the way it is. Now, this class is actually set into the context of the 4 seasons, because the seasons just provide such a perfect blueprint for the whole of human growth and the human journey. And so I fit the exercises, the spiritual work, kind of the metaphors we work with, into the context of the seasons that we're in. And here we are, just really in the lightest week of the whole entire year. This week, in 6 days, marks the very beginning of summer. And with each season comes a turning point in the circular cycle of growth. Throughout the spring, we've been working with the rising of light, using the heightened presence of actual external solar light and rapid growth to give attention to our spiritual light, and consequently to working with the spiritual principles of manifestation to quickly call forth our heart's desires in ways that skip steps and cut corners and are a little more effortless. And that's going to be our focus tonight. As with a lot of our exercises here, we're going to make use of the amplifying effect of all of us together. Even if we never meet in person, the potential of joined minds beyond the illusionary boundaries of time and space is tremendous. There's a very well-known research team, Robert John and Brenda Dunn. I think they were out of Princeton. And I talked about them last week, in fact. I mentioned them here from time to time. they found that the telekinetic power of two harmoniously joined minds was actually 6 times that of a single individual. And really, this is just the tip of an iceberg regarding the power of joined consciousness. Reading some of Lynn McTaggart's experiments with group consciousness is fascinating. In her latest book, The Power of 8, in fact, I often suggest reading her book, The Power of 8, at the same time that you might pick up my book, The Breakthrough Point, because hers approaches the power of group amplification, group mind, from a scientist's perspective, while mine approaches it more from a clinician's perspective. And I think they make a really interesting read together. And in some of her experiments, I mean, she has some amazing, some hard research, but some things that were really too big to call controlled research. I mean, if you read the book, it sounds very likely that one of her experiments actually ended a war. Don't believe me, really check out that book. It's quite amazing. Now, in my other lessons here, we delve more deeply into some of the mysteries of time and space and group synergy. And this week's focus, though, is really just on practice and experience. We're just going to see what we can make happen. We're going to experiment and see what happens for us. Now, the most powerful state for spiritual manifestation work is kind of an artful and paradoxical blend of, on one hand, following our human desires and passions, and on the other hand, surrendering all attachment to specific outcomes, which can kind of seem oxymoronic, if you think about it. Yet that is the true path of mastery, really listening to desire and surrendering attachment. And then a third ingredient, which is gratefully receiving whatever shows up and trusting that that is not just the highest that we can imagine, but the highest that God has for us. And these three, combining these three, require working through the vehicle of our personality without letting our personality take over. And always keeping in mind our co-creation with a power higher than our conscious mind and higher than our personal agendas. So when we've truly listened to our heart's desires and opened to receive whatever Spirit brings, whether it fits our pictures or not, even if our personality doesn't immediately like what shows up, it's bound to produce something better in the longer term. Something that will make us look back and be glad for the delayed gratification, because we wound up in a place so much more satisfying than where we were originally aiming. But, we're all human, and life's disappointments can so get in the way of this process. And for some of us, past hurts may have taught us to stop listening to our desires to such an extent that we rarely even let ourselves feel passionate about anything. And then on the rare occasions when we do, it's with a whole lot of attachment. It's with this, fierce and fearful attitude of, I have to have this, rather than, wouldn't it be lovely? Alternately, we may have so given up on our true desires that we no longer even recognize them, and instead we strive toward a lot of pale substitutes. We choose addictions over true fulfillment, or acquiring more stuff over achieving quality of life, or of being right over being loved, and so on and so on and so on. The expectation of disappointment can really inhibit our ability to trust the process of life and be grateful for the gifts of the present, especially when they don't immediately fit our pictures. We may fail to give our desires a chance to develop by rejecting each new sprout of our highest good just as it starts to grow, because the small fragile shoots don't match up with the full-blown garden that we have in mind. So before we use our collective energy to manifest our most cherished heart's desires, we're first going to clear the way for it by healing the old wounds of past disappointments. All of us can probably recall times, when we reached for our dreams, we really went for it, we took that leap of faith and we fell flat. And these crashes, they really do leave an emotional residue in not just our heart, but in our body and our mind. They leave us more defended and shut down than we were before. And we become less trusting, less willing to imagine bigger possibilities for ourselves. And when we do hope for more, we become attached to whatever outcomes we do imagine. And these falls that leave us, feeling hurt and kind of cynical, I think of them as more leaps of hope than leaps of faith. And they're just destined to result in wounds when they don't go according to our plan. And what I mean by that, with a leap of hope, we're deeply attached to a personal agenda, and we're counting on it to unfold just as we imagine. We've lost sight of our co-creation with something higher, and something wiser even than our limited personality. And we've left no room for spirit to intervene. So consequently, when we discover we just can't control our destiny from the level of our conscious ego, we're devastated. And instead of strengthening our access to an unlimited source, to the divine, we go into a mindset that just affirms our smallness and our powerlessness. We tell ourselves, see, this always happens to me. See, I knew that was going to happen. And when we truly have faith, we're really so certain that the outcome will be fine, whatever it is, that we've let the outcome go. We're able to feel peace and be happy in the present because we know the future will be fine no matter what. And our openness, our very openness, the pure nature of just being that open allows us to recognize all the beneficial opportunities that come our way, even if they're, not quite what we had in mind, even if they're different from our plan. And we're able to grow the little teeny small shoots of possibility, even when they're not immediately rewarding. That little teeny shoot isn't a whole giant rose bush covered with beautiful yellow blossoms. It's just this little tiny shoot. And we have to recognize what that is. So a leap of faith is the attitude of, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know it will be great. Whereas hope has a more desperate flavor, more like, oh my God, this has got to work. It's got to work. So what I'd like you to do now is just do a little bit of personal reflecting and just take a moment to give some thought to some of the significant failures and disappointments in your life. And see if you can identify one or two failed leaps of hope that left the biggest wounds behind. See if there's one in particular that, you can tell it's still with you. And remember, a truly effective manifesting state requires following our desires, surrendering our attachment to specific outcomes, and receiving gratefully whatever comes. So give some thought to how past failures, hurts, disappointments may have shaped your personality in a way as to make any of these difficult. In other words, see if you have any of the following challenges. And I always suggest having paper and pen handy when you do these classes. So for those of you who do have pen and paper handy, just jot down. See if you have any of the following challenges. Make a note wherever you see yourself. One, do you easily feel passionate but have difficulty letting go of your attachment to outcomes? You can feel passionate about a lot of things, but are also kind of attached. Or two, are you so detached that you have difficulty feeling your desires and really quite knowing what it is you want? When somebody says, what is your heart's desire? You're like, I don't know. Or do you have difficulty feeling grateful in the present? And this is sometimes the case when we're always striving toward a goal, but we never stop to appreciate it when we get it. So see if there's any of those three that are difficult, and just make a note there. And now see if you can recall a failed leap of hope. You took the leap, you crashed, left you kind of bruised and battered. But in retrospect, you feel glad it didn't go the way you hoped. Next, see if you can recall a past failure that actually led to something better eventually. Can tell you a great story about that. Once a guy came to one of my 5-day intensives. We were doing a big healing circle. I asked before we got into the circle, everybody think of what you most want to heal. And he had this really nasty plantar wart on his foot. I mean, it was so bad it couldn't really be cut out. It had kind of roots all over everywhere. It was awful. And he said, I want that to go away. And then before we really started the healing part of the evening, I said, now everybody think of something even bigger. And that's when he said, I want my relationship with Mary to be better. It's Mary being his wife. So he went into the healing circle. A few days later, boom, wart was gone. I mean, it just really, boom, went away, miraculous healing. But then within a few months, so did his relationship with Mary, his wife. They divorced. And a year later, he was in another little group circle with me, and he was sharing that story about his miraculous healing of the wart. And he kind of chuckled and said, I guess I should have just stuck with the wart, until he realized the he had brought a friend. The person sitting next to him was his new girlfriend, who was also named Mary. That was like over a decade ago. They are still together. So, you know, sometimes things have to, and sometimes God also has a little bit of a sense of humor. Sometimes things need to, you know, get a lot worse in order to get a lot better. So see if you can think of, you know, any of those kinds of failures in your life. And finally, bring to mind something in your life now that isn't going according to your personal plan. And see if you can imagine, you know, maybe 2 or 3 completely different ways that the seeming roadblock is preparing the way for something much better to come. Well, we're going to do, tonight involves a somewhat longer meditation than we often do here. And it begins with healing old wounds and then moving into spiritual manifesting work. Take a moment to either write down or really clarify in words to yourself something important that you would like to manifest. I say articulate it in words because the clearer we are, the more precisely we hone our intention. And, you know, that is everything when it comes to doing this kind of manifesting work. So if you have paper and pen nearby, just write down what that would be. And I always say, a heart's desire is not what you think you should. It's not what you think should be your top priority. Like, oh yeah, I have to manifest money to pay the utility bill, or, you know, no, it's what your heart is just jumping up in joy at the thought of having or doing or being. That's where we have energy to create something. So start there. And it's also wherever we have that kind of passion, that opens the door to our highest good in other ways. It's not that we can only have one thing, because I also don't want you to write a whole grocery list right now. I want you to see what really rises to the top of your priority list in terms of what just excites you right now at the thought of having it, doing it, being it. And focus in on that thing. Again, it's not because you can only have one thing. I always talk about the grocery list versus the discernment of what's most exciting to you as being kind of like a stack of standing dominoes, you know, a row of standing up dominoes. And when you figure out what is your deepest, highest, most impassioned heart's desire, that's like the first domino that you just give a little tap to, and it sets everything else in motion. So check in now and see what that is for you. Write it down. Put it in words for yourself. And this is very powerful work we're doing. The power of group energy, the power of the seasonal energy of the lightest week of the year, and the foundation that's been laid in previous lessons, even if you haven't been here for them. Many minds have been and have started what I think of as a river flowing that can kind of pick everybody up wherever you are, wherever you start, wherever you jump in, and will carry you along. And all of these things come together to create an opportunity for a tremendous acceleration of your growth. And it could be a turning point in our lives if we choose to reach for it. So you don't even have to believe that. Just take a moment to imagine how it would feel if you did. A lot of New Thought teachings say one must change one's beliefs in order to change reality. Like, you have to believe, you have to believe. And I've seen people in some New Thought communities who just, beat themselves over the head with those teachings. Like, oh my God, I'm thinking the wrong thoughts. Oh no, I've totally changed my reality. What am I going to do? Sometimes changing a belief can be like climbing Mount Everest. It can be like unthinking an elephant. And in my experience, I've been doing this kind of work for over 40 years. And what I've found is that it doesn't take changing belief. It really can be as easy and as simple as the lightest daydream. In fact, that's a far more effective manifesting state than really, white knuckling, trying to change our beliefs. So you don't even have to believe, you simply have to be willing to imagine how it would feel if you did believe, and to let your excitement start to build, because this too is a part of an effective manifesting state. And just imagine, as we go into this next meditation. So just get comfortable in your place. Just get in your seat, get comfy, close your eyes. Just quiet your thoughts with some deep, full breaths. And just turn your attention inward. Just deeper and deeper. Your body relaxing. And just again, give some reflection to the failed leaps of hope that have most left their mark on you. And bring them to mind vividly enough to feel the hurt they caused. Bring them all the way up. And imagine the residue of these experiences as being something real that's still left in your body. You're still carrying it around with you. And see if you can identify where physically you hold these wounds. And when you find them in your physical body, just in your mind's eye, let them take on a solid form, a shape, a color. And if emotion is there, just feel it without any resistance. Feel the grief, rage, fear, disappointment, betrayal, shame, or whatever other hurt is attached to these old experiences. And if tears want to come, just let them flow. And imagine that any emotion you feel now is coming to the surface because you're releasing it. And to assist in your healing, just invoke the power and the wisdom of your higher self, as well as any other form of spiritual deity or assistance that's meaningful to you. Call upon God, divine source, creator, higher power, your guardian angels, Jesus, the higher selves of those who love you, and any other personification of spirit that's meaningful to you. Just call on all that now. And know that you're not alone. And the healing that you haven't been able to accomplish from the illusionary position of being alone and separate is possible now because you've opened yourself to so much help. And to begin the healing, you're going to literally pull residue from these old wounding experiences that's embedded in your body out of your flesh and bone and blood, moving it to the energy field that extends around your body. So create this first vividly in your imagination, but use your hands with this too. Use your mind and your hands, just reach in and remove psychic substance and place it in the field surrounding your body. Picture it, feel it, actually use your hands so you tangibly have that kinesthetic aspect of it as well. And create the sensation and imagery of this as strongly as you can. Anyone who's shy about doing this on camera, then turn your camera off. Because just imagine that you are, like one of those psychic healers that actually reaches in and pulls stuff out. Imagine that you are doing that to yourself and pulling things out. You're pulling stuff out, pulling it out, pulling it out, pulling it out. You don't have to believe this is doing anything. Just imagine how it would feel if it did. That you are just one of the most powerful healers in the world, and this is doing some very real cleansing of your body. And imagine your higher self or other spiritual assistants helping you in this process in whatever way is shown to you. And just do that until it feels complete. Because this is the first step in letting these wounds go. It's like taking the trash out to the curb to be collected. And as you do that, you've already diminished your attachment to these past hurts. Instead of them having power over you, they're now in your power to release. So just let that process complete. And to complete your healing and move into manifesting, let your sense of identification begin to shift now from the small self of your personality and your body to your spiritual higher self. Imagine yourself as something more than your body, more than your thoughts, more than your emotions and your personal history. Recognize yourself as a beautiful, radiant being of light. And picture the other higher selves of participants here tonight now joining you. Imagine all of us across spatial boundaries coming together as beings of light. And first you can see those who are currently here tonight. And then because in the spiritual realm, time itself is an illusion. along with space. You can also see the lights of all the souls who have in the past and will in the future gather in this circle created by our intent. And together we form an incredibly powerful circle of healing and support. Our joined intentions quicken our growth and awaken our intuition and heighten our magnetism to our highest good. So whatever has seemed difficult in the past can now come more easily. Really take a moment to feel the energy of the circle building. Building to a point where it just feels as though anything is possible. Because in fact, that's the truth. And the light of our circle grows so bright that we now attract to us an even greater light. And you might see this as a brilliant spiritual sun, shining light to all of us. And know this to be the light of divine love. It's profoundly peaceful and healing. And you let it just wash over you through your body as well as through the energy fields surrounding your body. And this light now shines away anything that has dimmed your radiance. And you see it burn away and melt away and wash away or otherwise disappear all those wounds from the past and anything you no longer need to carry in your body and mind. And as old hurts get released, you fill with the deep peace of divine light. And you become more powerfully radiant than you were before. In fact, each of us now emanates a more brilliant vibration of light. Our healing work has increased the energy of all of us. So the energy of our circle is even bigger, stronger, prepared it to receive our highest heart's desires. So we've created this very powerful foundation for manifestation to occur. And truly feel the presence of spiritual assistance far beyond that of the individuals hearing these words. It's not necessary to be aware of all that's now happening at the spiritual realm, but know that a lot is going on. Sometimes much of this work happens below the surface of conscious awareness, and at the same time you may be aware of things visually or sounds or feeling impressions, or other ways that spiritual reality just starts to break through into your conscious awareness. Just be with that. And imagine that the hard, fixed nature of reality as you've known it is now becoming very fluid and soft. Because really, cold, harsh reality is just an illusion of our own making. And as the illusion falls away, it's being replaced with something benevolent and responsive. And it's into this reality where all things are possible that we will offer our highest heart's desires. So just imagine holding your desire gently and lightly, kind of like you would hold a butterfly that just lit on your hand for a moment. When you're just still and focused and in awe and wonder. And see everyone in our network of participants and all these souls together, all of us doing the same, And just take a moment to savor all the many life changes represented by all these beautiful butterflies, all these souls holding a cherished desire. Just feel how big that is. All the miracles, all the wonders, all the healing and joy. And now bring to mind yours, imagining it as though it's already come to pass. And when you can feel the delight and fulfillment of your dreams manifest, just walk in it just like the lightest of daydreams. No straining. This isn't hard work. It should feel pleasurable rather than difficult. And when you've got it, when you've got all the good feelings of it, then just let it go. Just keep the good feeling. Let go of the how and the when and the what. Just let everything go but the good feeling. And now with all the lightness of being you can muster, imagine all of us all at once, handing our desires up, letting them all fly free, just a mass of beautiful butterflies. Enjoy the flurry of it as they all take flight. Send them off with the certainty that what comes back to you will be exactly what you imagined or something much, much better. And just let your heart be filled with gratitude, giving thanks for all the blessings of your life, past and present and future. Just savor this moment for a bit. And then just complete your meditation by thanking the others in the circle and all of our spiritual assistants. And imagine the joy of all the many who've been here in spirit as their heart's desires come to fruition. Just imagine all of us here just having wonderful things come to fulfillment this week and in the weeks to come. If it's hard to imagine for yourself, sometimes it's easier to imagine for other people. Imagine their joy, their relief, their gratitude. And even if it's hard to have faith in yourself, know that you now have a group of people who've had faith in you. And just take a couple of deep breaths. And just slowly bring yourself back to a normal waking state. Just open your eyes. Breathe. I always say after we do meditations like that, it's always good to have some water. So if you don't have water nearby, when we're done here, I would go get some. I'm going to open it up for a few minutes of sharing in a moment, but I had a couple of things I wanted to say about this course. One is that there's actually a written lesson that goes along with each live class. There are quite extensive written materials. And the way you get to them is by going to my website, lynnwoodland.com. Will not meet. And I also wanted to mention, I've been doing a series the past couple of years from time to time with just a brilliant guy, Bryant Cruz. I have the luxury of access to him because he happens to be my cousin. So I get him to come in from time to time and do these wild looks into the future. And you know how we're also afraid of the dark side of technology these days? Well, he actually has created a technology that is truly the antidote to a lot of the scary things that technology is doing, from the algorithms that go awry to the concern that one day our technology is going to dominate humanity. He is literally a rocket scientist. His first job was the Hubble telescope, working on that. And he's created a couple of technology companies and working on his third. He has created a form of artificial general intelligence that very few people know about because it's just reached its stage of development and they're starting to put it out there to the general public. So, you know, because he's my cousin, I can share it with people first. It's the very first ever artificial intelligence that can actually comprehend and think. And if that sounds scary, it's not, because it is inherently bias-free. And he's doing an event next Tuesday, next Tuesday, 7 o'clock Eastern, that would be 6 o'clock Central, around what might it look like if a completely bias-free technology started replacing all of the infrastructures in our human world, from the jobs nobody wanted to do, to the dangerous ones like firefighting, to the notoriously bias-filled and dangerous things like policing. What might that look like? So it should be a really interesting evening. It's free. He does them for free. And anyone who's interested, let me know, send me an email. And if you want to be on my email list to receive emails about this group every week, just if you're not already on, send me an email about that too. So I think that's all the announcements I needed to make. But I wanted to open it up for any thoughts or sharing before we call it a night.
What was the name of your cousin's company then?
It's called New Sapiens. NEWSAPIENCE.com. That's where you find it.
Would you spell that again for me?
Yeah, New, NEWSAPA. I'm sorry, SAPIENCE. I knew I had a brain fart just then. Sorry.
Did you see that they just, there was somebody who just declared that a computer was sentient? And
I know. I think he just did the rebuttal to that. It's not. I did hear about it. And, you know, he's very open to taking questions and comments. And so, you know, anything you throw at him, he'll like, yeah, but... So, and he loves questions. So if you can make it, you might want to join us, Sheldon. Anything else about tonight or anything at all? Well, thank you all. Those of you who are new tonight, thanks for joining. Come back again anytime. And until next, yeah.